Okay, so time to go over like the past week, which was from like Monday the 20th until Sunday the 26th. So yeah, let's go ahead and like where do I start from? So what was it? Um so for Wednesday, July 22nd, I was what was funny that morning, I clicked on this video that was like I clicked on the video that was like when a cop makes her last traffic stop early in the morning, and then I clicked off of it, and then I went to the cops playlist that I have saved, and then I scrolled really quickly, and then I randomly stopped scrolling, but I accidentally tapped on that exact video that I just closed out of. I tapped on it again, so at that point I was wondering if I already scrolled past it, but yeah. Um, oh, July 22nd. What else happened? I also spoke to a British woman over the phone, and then she was telling me something, and then I was like, I was speaking regular, but then what is this? I noticed this like an hour ago. I started pulling on them, but I know I then I started switching to a British accent when I was trying to figure out where she was from, where that accent was from, and then at some point she was telling me some good news, and then I was like, oh my goodness, that's absolutely splendid, and she was like, indeed, bro. She said indeed, bro. She was so British, and then later that day I went to the store, and I was talking to this one Pakistani woman. I approached her, but this was not on video at all. And she walked in front of me while the fridge was open. I opened the fridge to look in the vegan section because now I wear my headphones all the time when I go shopping. And I feel like it's also good because when I choose to talk to women, it feels intentional. Whereas if I don't have my headphones on, it feels like I was looking for someone to talk to or something. I don't know. It looks like when I have my headphones on, it looks like I'm keeping to myself mostly as far as like not bothering people. So she walked in front of me while the fridge was open. And then this was the vegan section where the mayonnaise and sausages were at. And then I was about to walk to the impossible meat section, but she already beat me to it. I backed away and she closed that fridge. I just kind of nodded to her. I still had my headphones on. So she walked over there, and she got the exact thing I was going to get next. And I actually said I was going to get that same thing. And then she was already holding it. She handed it to me. And then I asked, "Are you vegan too?" And then she said, "No, mostly vegetarian." So so then I asked her if she's Indian. She said no and just stared at me with a smile. And then I said, "Are you Pakistani?" And she was like, "Yeah." And then I said, I can't speak Urdu. I just, but I have been studying Hindi. And she was like, "I can understand Hindi, but not speak it." And then I don't know exactly how this went, but then I walked away at some point. And then I turned around and went back up to her. And then I said, I think I said, "Are you here by yourself?" And then she was like, "What are you asking?" And then I said, "Are you single?" I said it the first time, and then she looked at me. She was like, "Am I legal?" She thought I was asking that. And then I was like, "No." And then, well, no, I said, "No, are you single?" And then she said, "No, I'm married." Then she showed her the ring on her left hand. So, yeah, she was actually pretty fine. I know it's like a thing. It's like a thing I started saying. Um, like, there's this phrase, shit'll get ugly like Indian women. Like South Asian women just steady catching strays. But yeah, she was fine. She was in shape. She had like a tattoo going down her right leg, so like more of a secular Pakistani woman. I'm glad I said Pakistani instead of Pakistani. July 23rd, that was my first time getting into and out of a trade in one within 1 minute, just holding for a few seconds. So I've been away from it for a long time. So yeah, I took a long break away from it. So, but no, I just focus on my 9 to 5 and just save up money like that. So, and then July 24th, somebody came in, and there was another coworker saying, another coworker who's older than me, and he's shorter, but he's like, he gets angry easily, but then he'll also say that girls are cute, but only after when he's out of earshot of them. I I went up to the front where she was. She also spoke to like another younger coworker. I was like, "Are you African?" She said yes, and I was like, "You're a Kenyan." And then she said Nigerian and Ghanaian and something else. And then homegirl really pulled out her ancestry and showed me. I said, "Did you pull up ancestry.com or 23andMe?" And she said Ancestry and Me or something like that. And then I asked her if she's single. She said no, not yet, which is absolutely diabolical. And then I actually said that's no good. That the fact that she said not yet, it sounds like she's planning on breaking up. But and then yeah, and then I asked her if she works in the entertainment industry. She just had that look to her. Um, and she was like, she said I model and act. And then I said, you have a very photogenic face. And then she actually said that I do too. She said I could be a model or an actor. And then she showed me her Instagram. She even looked at me and waved goodbye before she left. I've never heard anybody tell me I could model.
Hey, I mean, look at you.
All right, her hands were full of like two different things. She had like, this was a dark skinned black woman. She had like some women around her, some other black women around her who did not look like models. I'll just leave it at that. I found her Instagram. Well, this was in the afternoon. I got off work after, I got home after 2 a.m. and then I found her Instagram. Like, I'm a detective. I had a rough idea of what her Instagram looked like, but I didn't have it written down exactly. I just knew the name roughly. I just typed in something. It looked like someone typed her Instagram, but they were super drunk. That's what I typed into Google, and then I typed in IG and scrolled way down. Her page still came up on the first page. I remember her first three posts, what they looked like, and those first three posts were showed up on Google. It was one of the few Instagram accounts that showed those three posts, the three most recent posts. And later that day, well, at the very beginning of the day, on July 24th, that same day, one of the ladies who works there was wearing a purple shirt. She was telling me to only wear dress slacks and no more jeans because I was wearing black jeans. And she also saw that I already had non-slip shoes. And then later that day, after, no, I usually see her walking around with a white shirt, but she had a purple shirt on. And I asked her, "Did you get promoted?" And she was like, "No, I'm a manager." And I was like, "Oh, I didn't know that." I said, "I always see you walking around with a white shirt." But which is funny because on July 25th, like the main manager was telling me that it sounded like I was being sarcastic, and I was like, "No, I was just genuinely asking." But okay, so later that day, July 24th, after talking to the model, the manager called the police on a zombie who came in and was acting weird. After he was limping inside, I told one of the grill operators to keep an. I was just like, "Hey, such and such," and then I pointed over there. That was right after I was getting off a break. And after he passed, like my coworkers gave him some free food, and then after he passed out, the manager called the police and the medics. There were some medics that came in with a stretcher, and she also called the police on a second time for a 19-year-old who was trying to get into a verbal fight because his food was right there supposedly, but he didn't. But this 19-year-old did not have a receipt, and he was really tall. But the person handling the orders was saying, "You have to show us a receipt." So she called the police twice in that day, and I've been working here for 2 months. Never saw her call the police until July 24th, and it was twice. Like, they're really hammering down because Gen Con is coming, and like there's going to be CEOs on this upcoming Friday. Yeah. And July 25th, the kid who actually tried to like fight me three weekends ago, he was fired for one of the managers who doesn't physically work here but works at a partner location. And then a manager whose name starts with T, a manager whose name, I think, no, I don't think, well, yeah, a manager whose name starts with D the one who had the purple shirt on, and another one, another worker whose name starts with the letter H. And so yeah, it don't really got nothing to do with me, but I played a role at least in like getting him on the radar. I feel like I saw him inside the restaurant before I walked in, but I had my headphones on. I was looking at my phone, pretending not to see him, just like, and then I looked around to look for his backpack when I went to the back because he didn't have it on. He was just standing in the customer area. So, and then what I did was I looked into the system. Yeah, after I clocked in, I typed his name in. I typed the first letter of his name, and I did not see him. I was confident that he was removed. And then, because I was wondering why he was there so early if he wasn't working, unless he does day shift or something. And then, so I typed the second letter, which only applies to him, and I still did not see him. So he was for sure fired. But I was wondering why he came to the back eventually. And then I saw him putting on the work uniform. He was in the back, and he was actually telling another coworker that he had a second kid on the way from 2 baby mamas. Keep in mind, I believe he's still 17, unless his birthday came in the last 3 months. So I don't recommend having kids if you're not in the right financial position. But if you're super young, don't even have kids, period. Like, that's why I feel like I've heard a lot of Christian moms, like certain moms, black moms, telling their daughter, don't deal with any men when you go to college, tell them off. But that's a perfect opportunity to say, here's how you pick the right man, the ideal man. I can't stop you, but if you're going to, do this. Because that woman, if she feels like there's an open communication with her mother, she's going to be open and honest about guys that she's thinking about. But if she has to hide it because she's going to be dealing with people, she's going to be like, I better not let my mom find out that I purchased condoms, and that might lead to an unintentional kid. But that's a whole nother. That was just a segue into another conversation. Just be open and honest about intimacy, like the old ways of like, don't deal with anybody, just tell them off. Even though you're at college as a grown woman, like I've heard like Christian black moms say that to their daughters. But so yeah, going back to it, I saw him putting on the work uniform and like talking to another coworker. That the other coworker I'm cool with, and then I saw him walking around. He didn't officially start working, but he was just walking around, getting in position, whatever. And I heard other employees saying, "Isn't he fired?" The manager was looking at him like he's not supposed to be here. And then one of the coworkers said, "How did I know? How did I know he was fired?" But the manager didn't know he was fired. Then I saw him, this kid, I saw him get called back to where the manager was. He was standing there for a minute, just looking at the manager back there, and like he was talking to the manager for a good amount, and then like he eventually just stood outside the break area and was looking straight ahead, pretty much directly at me, but like I was just pretending to not notice him. I was just praying, just like dancing around, just going like this, just looking at the fry station, just pretending to be preoccupied. And and then he had taken his outfit off, and he was talking to the manager for a good amount, and then he eventually left, and I was standing outside by the customer area, and he was saying, "Wait." He was looking at me while he was walking out, and he said, "Wait," as he was walking out. I pointed to another coworker, assuming that the kid was talking to someone else who was next to me. And then I looked, and he was looking at me. So, but I just went about my day. So, and then I learned later on that he was fired for getting into a verbal argument with those 3 other people. So he's been a consistent problem for multiple different people, like, and now he's fired. Yeah, and let me see. And then I'm in the process of like getting another job. Like somebody who was like telling me about a job, they came back in on that day. Was it? I believe it was the 25th. Yeah, they came back in on the 25th, and yeah. So, and then later, I actually got into it with the person who was working on the fry station with me. This was on Saturday. Yeah. And then he was telling me, is there any reason why you can't do these orders? And then I was like, I was doing other things. You're acting like I don't want to work. And then he was like, you are. And he was like, you're not, or something like that. And then at some point later in the day, I was like, see, I was telling him, see, I'm cleaning the fire station, not walking away, or something like that. And then I would tell him, um, I'm going to I'm going to restock. I'm not walking away from you. And then he was like, I hope not. And then later on, we were like wrapping up, and then he was like, and then I was sent back to do dishes. Then I came back, and then he was like, there's no dishes back there. And then I said, there's about to be. And then he was like, but there's none back there. Are you not thinking correctly? And then I was like, I'm not the one who left for 3 hours, because he left for 3 hours. So yeah. And then later on, like several minutes later, I had one more order left, and there was still time on the chicken that was in the fry station. And he, and well, I said, I'm not the one who stayed away for 3 hours, who left work for 3 hours. And then he shook his head and started walking away. And then I said, look, he gonna run off. And then one of the managers turned to me and said, you're not helping. Please be quiet. And then he came back. And when I was finishing, there was still time left on the chicken, 20 seconds. He gon' somebody, I'm talking to somebody else, not him. Nobody's talking to him. The coworker who was working next to me, who's always angry, who has exploded with anger before, he was like, I'm just being real, when he was talking to me about like about like me not thinking correctly or something. And then what else? And that was when I said, look, he gonna run off. And then a few minutes later, he came back, and he had like some cups that was restocking. He was trying to slam them down on the table, like a few feet to my right. And then I was looking at him, like, I just glanced at it. I noticed it, but I didn't look at him directly. And then when there was 20 seconds left on the chicken approximately, I was telling somebody else, I just have chicken left, and then we'll be done. And then he's gonna jump in the conversation after, when I was talking to somebody else. He gonna say, man, you better hurry up on that chicken. And then I turned to him and say, shut up. And then somebody, and then one of the, and then he says, man, I'm trying to do this work. And then one of the managers tells me, you don't tell another coworker to shut up. And then I tell them, I'm like, why is he talking to me? So yeah, I went to the back to do dishes eventually. So yeah, that guy has gotten super angry to the point where he was screaming at another coworker, a female coworker, like many months ago. And then I was the one who spoke to him after that and was like, can we not do that? Like, this is the same coworker. So very prone to anger. And when he feels like people are asking for free shakes or free food, he's going to slam his hand on the table. He's going to be like, man, these people keep trying to get free food, man. I'm sick of it. Man, I ain't dealing with this. He says stuff like that. And I'm like, there's no need to get so upset. Like, several other people, he'll be explaining something to them, and he'll go on for such a while. You need to go do this, because if it's not complete, we're going to have a bigger issue. And I found out he used to be a manager. I found that out on the 24th. And whenever he's telling people stuff, they'll be like, okay. Also, on that day earlier on, I was telling him, like, okay, manager, when he was telling me to do stuff, because he used to be a manager. And I said that to someone else yesterday, because I said that to someone else on Friday the 24th, because she was telling me, this area is dirty. It needs to be like fixed. And then I was looking at her, I was like, I think I was silent the first time, and then she told me something else. I was like, okay, manager. And then she was like, he said, okay, manager. She said that in front of the actual manager. And then the manager was like, who? And she was like, Toffee. So yeah, I'm thinking about leaving, because the CEOs are going to be there during Gen Con, and it's apparently 100,000 plus people that are going to be in this city across like multiple different venues, like Gamebridge, Lucas Oil, the Indiana Convention Center. Like, so I might just walk in, then quit, and then walk out, to be completely honest. There's going and the manager was the big manager was trying to scare me. She was telling me on Friday night there's going to be CEOs. The CEO is going to be here. They were talking about it all day on Saturday, and then she was telling me at night before I clocked out. It was like two of us left. She was like, the CEO is going to be here, and then I was like, okay, that's perfectly fine. It sounded like she was trying to, and then she said CEO is going to be here. I'm like, that's fine. Tell everybody else that. And she was like, I'm just telling you so that you can follow what they say. And I'm like, because I could pick up. She was probably telling me because she thought I would be worried about that. And then she also said, and a lot of corporate people are going to be here too. I'm like, okay, then tell them to come here. I'm gonna have fun. But in all fairness, I might like because like I went on multiple interviews last week, and I just applied to like two other jobs. Like I went on two interviews last week. One of them didn't go through. Always call ahead because there was a third one I called ahead, and they said the hiring manager only comes on Saturdays for the next 2 weeks because it's like they're changing schedules around or something. But I forgot what exactly was said. But always call ahead. I don't show up blind to interviews in years. I always call the day of, not even the day before. Even if it's 5 minutes after opening, I'm calling you before I walk up in there. Cause like early on, actually I don't know if this happened before where I walked in and they said the hiring manager wasn't there or anybody who could handle the interviews. But yeah, I may just quit for a while. I don't usually recommend this, and I don't think it's been a while since I did this. But quitting when you have no job that you're actively working now, like I don't know what Friday's going to look. It might be packed, but I might just quit and go enjoy my Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.